Yeah, when during the Thomas fire, when Sean was unreachable for a long time, it was worrisome. And then April and I got a text of Mike and Sean together. Mike works for Ventura City and they're longtime friends. And it was like, okay, they're together. And that felt like such a relief that he was with a buddy out there, even just momentarily.
Welcome to the Fire Family Collective podcast, the show dedicated to supporting the unsung heroes of the fire service, the wives, partners, and families who hold down the fort while their firefighters serve. Hello, welcome to the Fire Family Collective podcast. I am Amanda, and I am so excited. I am here with Tami Davis. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate the Fire Family Collective, and I'm glad to be here today.
Yeah, we have had the fortune of reconnecting more lately with our book club that we're doing, our summer book club series, which is super exciting. And I've met Tami a few times in person. We both live here locally in Ventura County area. So I'm going to let Tami introduce herself.
Hello. I am originally from Michigan. I met my husband, Sean, in the Coast Guard. And after we finished our enlistments, we moved to Ojai, where he's from. And he became a paramedic and then worked for Ventura City Fire for 5 years. And now he's been at Montecito Fire for about 15-ish years. So he's been in the fire service for 20 years. He also did a season for the Forest Service. I forgot to mention that between the Coast Guard and structural firefighting.
That's a lot. That's like over 20 years if we can do some approximate math there of the fire service career. And was he did the US Coast Guard Fire Service and then Ventura?
Yes, and he actually went to paramedic school in the Bay Area because I was finishing my enlistment after the Forest Service. So before moving down here, and then when we first moved here, he was on an ambulance for about a year before Ventura.
And I want to talk to you a little bit about community and connection within those two different fire departments. If you don't mind sharing, you actually co-led the auxiliary that your husband is with that department right now. Can you share a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, I really enjoy in-person meetings and relationships and building connections. So I was happy to do that with a friend for about 5 years. We co-led the auxiliary, and we planned the annual holiday party. We helped out with a retirement barbecue that usually happened every spring, and a beach or pool day once a year, and then hosted meetups and so forth. We also provided support to new families by welcoming them and exchanging numbers and checking in on the lives. And my husband was in charge of the fire academy for a while and in charge of training. So through that, we participated in the academy graduations and welcoming the new families that way.
I love that, and I can relate so much to that. So at the previous department my husband was at in Sacramento, we didn't have any official women's auxiliary and non-official. I was so excited that the group that he was hired with was like 30 people. So we kind of like made our own little connecting group of wives partners.
Mhm.
And when I moved here to Ventura, I didn't know that even auxiliary was a thing. So they had one, and that was super exciting to me, that it existed, and they put in this effort to have this community and connection, right? We say fire family, but what does fire family really look like? So to see it in action, like you said, something that is a consistent gathering of committed women who are mostly behind the scenes doing these things, that's really cool that you know, spearheaded that and co-led it with someone, because it's not easy. It takes a lot of effort. So thank you for showing up for your community like that. And I've been fortunate that I've gotten to see you at a few of the events here in Ventura. We first met, we were just like reminiscing about it. We think it was in 2023, possibly, for like a peer support training that we got to go through, which was mind blowing. I left there like, I could probably go to this class a few times a year and still take away new things every time. It was very, very supportive and informational.
Mhm. Yeah, I've been to
Um,
a few, conferences or workshops like that, and I really enjoy and appreciate them, for sure.
I, I've never been to something like that for first responder partners or anything. And so that was like my first taste of it. And it was amazing. Amazing. Uh, yeah. So you also mentioned that you, with helping out with the auxiliary, you also like met the new families. Your husband worked with the academy directly. So, um, what was one of the things that you found that helps new families feel welcome into this life as fire families?
I think just, offering a sense of community and inviting those people to a beach day, for example, or, for coffee or just a, text exchange and checking in is good to know that if they have any questions, there is a resource, a person that they could reach out to.
Yeah. I think you said it perfectly is like actual that personal one-on-one connection in the face, like you showed up to a breakfast or something and they know that you're a person, not just like an automated email, like show up at this barbecue.
Mhm.
Because oftentimes I don't even get that communication that like a barbecue is happening. And so just being informed of an event is very different than forming an actual connection. So, again, Montecito is very lucky that they had you and whatever it looks like now to have that. Uh, Anything else you want to share about like auxiliary and how that's, played a significant role in your time as a fire wife?
Sure. Yeah. Unfortunately, the auxiliary kind of dissolved with COVID and that chapter during the pandemic. And the association took up some of that afterward. They planned a beach day and the holiday party. They still do. And now there's a union representative that would be in charge of that. So we're meeting less, which is too bad. But we do stay in touch through a WhatsApp group and we share resources and invites that way. Back when I was leading the auxiliary, we had a private Facebook group, and that was good for sharing pictures when we would all get together and such and refamiliarize ourselves with, faces and names before events. That was a good refresher for me. But I was happy to volunteer. And also, I like reaching out to people when their spouses are on fires. And I like when people reach out to me during fire season, especially. That feels good. What else do I wanna say about that? I've gone to 2 of the 1805 live concerts, which are awesome, and that is to raise money for first responder wellness. They are at Kevin Costner's home in Montecito. It's a huge concert, and so that was fun. I also participated in, a debrief after the Thomas Fire and debris flow. Linda O's, who is an author and a fire wife, she came and did a talk with all the firewives and families, and we felt really supported through that. And then I was introduced to the At Ease program, which funds counseling. So we sought out a counselor actually for my son at that time, but she ended up being a better fit for me. So I stuck with her through the At Ease program, and then we found a different counselor for my son through insurance, and she became our family counselor. So, yeah, that was kind of our start of counseling as a family because of just the need after those two major events, the Thomas Fire in 2017 and the debris flow up in Montecito in 2018, directly after the fire. So, I also participated in the auxiliary with Ventura City, and that was briefly before Sean left. But I made lasting friendships through that, and I'm still connected with those people. And when Sean was working for Ventura City, he facilitated a Relay for Life team for the American Cancer Society. And so our family was very involved with that for multiple years. And one memory that stands out for me is a man named John Duff was on our team and he would pull the night shift and really friendly guy. He unfortunately passed from cancer shortly thereafter. And he is honored at the memorial stair climb that you and I did last year. as well as Matt Clapsaddle that Sean worked with at Ventura City, and another guy that he went through the academy with. All 3 of them were honored, within the stairwells. Their pictures were up, and I thought that was nice. And if people don't know about the stair climb, should we talk about that a bit?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the Ventura Fire Honor Guard sponsors that, and it's a memorial for 9/11 first responders and first responders in general. So it's is a really challenging event. We had to climb, I think it was 10 flights of stairs with 10 steps each, and that um, was equivalent to the towers during 9/11. So that's what we were honoring, that's what we were doing, and it's, very active. My son and I did it together. It was a push to finish, and I was proud that we were there, and, a friend from Montecito joined us and then friends from Ventura City, so it was good to see familiar faces and do it together.
Yeah. I so many things. So I'll talk about the stair climb first. So I also did it last year for the first time. My husband has done it before, but I didn't participate in it. We have much younger kids. And then also Sacramento had a version of it when we lived up there. Um, but partners can't participate that one. It's like just at like the city does that. So anyways, just a really nice, like you said, memorial to people that maybe the actual first responders in the area have worked with,
Mhm.
unfortunately, but also just that feeling of family, right? Like we all show up and we are here to honor and be together. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. And I say this so many times, and this is a perfect example of it. I couldn't ask for better role models for my kids than this community, right? Like police officers, private ambulance company employees, just regular community members are showing up to events like this, like you
Mhm.
said, Relay for Life, different things where these are the people we want our kids growing up around and seeing the acts of service, the selflessness, honoring, and it's so beautiful. And my kids are 5 and 6, they might not know all of those things, but they're making an impact, and it's beautiful to see, and it was hard. I'm excited to do it again this year. I signed up because Tammy thankfully reminded me I still hadn't signed up yet, so it'll be fun, and hopefully we have, like, a good group. We forgot to take a ladies picture last year, so I hope you remember this year. It was so, surprising to see all the faces that do end up making it because life happens and sometimes some people don't make it. So that's, amazing. And also, it's sometimes it's really hard to just like breeze over heavy stuff. You mentioned two really, heavy things with the Thomas fire and then the Montecito. What did you call after?
Debris flow, the
Debris flow.
mudslides.
Yeah, thank
Mhm.
you, debris flow. Like, I feel like sometimes as partners, we maybe take on that, persona of just breezing over things, and I wanna make sure we don't do that. Those were 2 really, tragic things that happened here in our community. At the time, John and I still lived in Sacramento. We hadn't come back yet to Southern California, and, witnessing from a distance is not the same as being here, um and it they w they were very, very tragic, catastrophic life loss, property loss, and, I can't imagine how you were affected and impacted, and I want to acknowledge, like, you realized that you needed some additional support for you and your family, and you sought that out, and that's not always easy, so kudos for you for doing that and taking the, um action, having agency, and not just sitting in whatever was going on and showing your kids, different ways to deal with things, and seeking out those resources. So before we move on, I just wanted to make sure I touch those things. So thank you. Um, and we'll transition unless there's something else you wanted to say on those things.
No, thank you for acknowledging all of that. It was a heavy time, and we also had to evacuate our house. So that's a whole story, which I wrote. for I wrote about that for Chicken Soup for the Soul. It hasn't been published yet, but I did take time to reflect on that and process it. Um, yeah, it was a big deal for the whole county, well, both counties, Ventura County and Santa Barbara, and the biggest wildfire at the time, and then just the unbelievably shocking mudslide that followed. So, yeah, tragic for sure. And I'm thankful that my husband's department recognized that and brought in the counselors and let us know about the Addie's program. And they also had a thank you dinner um, at the San Ysidro Ranch. Oprah Winfrey was the keynote speaker for that. And so it was a very nice thank you and way to honor everybody after that.
Yeah, that's incredible, and, you know, I appreciate people who can leverage their, networks like that, like you said, Kevin Costner does the 805 event, and I hope I can go to that someday. Um, I say that every year, so 2027, Tammy, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Um, yeah, and then, yeah, Oprah Winfrey, obviously, a huge network and circle, so just I hope things don't take a tragic event for that to happen.
Mhm.
And just like the 1805 event, he does it annually. It's great, and there's so many other things. So I'm glad that we have that. Okay, you mentioned writing. We're gonna get to more of that, but before we hop to that, um, one of the things that I know you've shared is that you're a writer, which I love and I'm so excited for because I'm going to write a book someday. Um, and I know you also mentioned that you substitute teach, and that's, a big deal. You have two kids, your husband's a first responder, having your own career with the ebbs and flows of motherhood, fire life. Um, what does that feel like for you? What does that look like to maybe not have it be what you thought it would be? Like, what are your feelings on that?
Yeah, so I'm thankful that my husband is able to financially provide for us so that I have the option to work part time and to take up my interests in writing and in dance. And so I enjoy teaching, but I just do it on a part time basis as a sub. Now, I've worked full time as a long term sub twice. So, two different semesters at two different schools. One was in third grade and one was in middle school. And then I've done some tutoring and worked at summer camp through the Ojai Valley School. And so all of that was rewarding, but I'm glad that I also get to balance that with being available to my kids as the steady parent, since, as you know, fire shifts are long and fire season is unpredictable, let alone random things throughout the year like mandates and training and conferences and so forth. But there are a lot of perks to being a firewife, and I'm thankful that we have this dynamic, even though it's hard at times. And I'm glad that we have the Fire Family Collective and the podcast that's associated, and some other podcasts that I listen to that feel validating, that feel relatable. Also, books that you and I have discussed that speak to what we go through as fire families. And that feels supportive as well. Also, leaning on friends and having community. I might be taking a tangent here. I forget the original question, but that all
We're
feels
good.
supportive um, within what I'm trying to do as a writer and a teacher. Now, sometimes I do get jealous that I don't have a full career in teaching, but my husband and I made choices years ago, and I'm glad for my path and getting to be at home and, exercise or do things that I need to do for the house and be a homemaker and feel good about that, because I would feel stretched and stressed if I had to juggle full-time work, my interests, which I think are important and I don't want to let go of regarding writing and dancing and motherhood. That would be a stretch if I had to do it for years on end. So, yeah, I mean, I'm open to that if the right position came about now that my kids are old enough to be independent. But when they were little, it didn't really feel like an option. So, yeah. life's phases and different versions. But yeah, I'm glad to be where we are.
Yeah. I know you said you like to dance. What other ways, do you fill your cup? Writing, dance, you're teaching, what else?
Traveling, we just went to Catalina Island, so that was fun. We have a boat now, and so that's a new adventure to go out on the boat as a family. It's also a fishing boat and good um, outlet for my husband to de-stress and get away from things. So yeah, I travel to Michigan almost every year to see my side of the family. So I'm grateful for those opportunities. And yeah, I do walk and talks with friends, and that feels good. So yeah, that's how I fill my cup. hmm Journaling, dance, friends, traveling.
I love all of that, and I think sometimes I find myself, like, whatever, kind of, like, down and talking negatively about situation, with the first responder schedule, and just thinking, like, "I'm doing all these things as a stay-at-home mom. I don't have my own career. I gave up blah, blah, blah," and flipping the script kind of, and, like, these are my household daily, tasks, and I am filling my cup in this way, like you said. I'm moving my body. Maybe I did a stroller walk with the kids and got in some sunshine. Maybe we got a play date and I actually got to talk to another adult. Maybe my firefighter is actually home, so I got to leave the house and go to an in-person fitness class. It can look a lot of different ways, and reality is much different than what we pictures we painted as kids growing up and thinking what our life would be like as adults.
hmm
So, it sounds like you have found a lot of beauty in this life, and that's wonderful. I love that. What is something that maybe you're working on letting go of control over? I don't know how I would answer this question, so I'll preface that. So if you don't have an answer right now, that's totally okay because I'm not sure what I would say.
Um, Communication is good. I just got a book for my husband and I for our anniversary called Fight Right. We haven't started reading it yet, but it was recommended to me by a friend. I think flexibility, I struggle with change. And something that I could do is it's always jarring when Sean gets sent out on an assignment because whatever plans we have, I have to adapt and let go of or, um, be flexible with. And I need to name it to tame it, right? So I know that I'm going to feel unsettled for about 2 days. And then I get over it and things smooth out every time. This is a pattern, right? So now that I recognize that, it's like, okay, when I feel like, frustrated and disappointed, by him getting sent out, I can try to look for the good and name it like, Tammy, you're just going to feel this way for 2 days. And then you and the kids will get into a groove and it'll be fine, just like it always has been. Um, so that's something that I want to remind myself of. I did years ago write a letter to myself, um, like a non-fire season wife to fire season wife. Like, "Dear fire season wife, hang in there. It'll be better this winter. You'll have quality time together and everything." So that sticks with me because there are really 2 versions of the job. And even though fires can come about anytime, like the Thomas Fire did in December, um, fire season during the summer is intense because teams are getting sent out all the time, and we worry about that. But then there's the winter and the spring where we get to relax a little bit more.
I love that, and I'm definitely doing that. In book club, we've been talking about writing letters to ourselves, different versions, but the non-fire season versus the fire season wife, like, mind-blowing, earth-shattering. I definitely am doing that. So if you're listening and you wanna share any version of that for yourself, I wanna hear it because that's really cool, thank you. Um, yeah, I'm, like, totally just stuck on that. I can't even believe that. That's incredible. And, um, something else too, again, being in the service, your husband's been over 20 years, and I think one of the things that you said was made me think was It's not just our firefighter we start caring about, right? They make connections, you form connections. And so you also have that like worry for these other people in our community. And I didn't really experience that for the first time until a few years ago, and I was like, I am so worried about other people on these fires, and it's a very different feeling, kind of having those feelings and carrying the weight of that and acknowledging that there's a lot of people out there we care about, not just our firefighter. Um, so that's, yeah, a whole other layer of this life too.
It's true. Yeah, when during the Thomas fire, when Sean was unreachable for a long time, it was worrisome. And then April and I got a text of Mike and Sean together. Mike works for Ventura City and they're longtime friends. And it was like, okay, they're together. And that felt like such a relief that he was with a buddy out there, even just momentarily. And I actually wrote an essay about that experience. And I've written poetry about fire life, fire wife life, and so writing helps me process all of that. I've written several articles for the Mom Collective about fire evacuation and fire family life. There's one called um, something about chores and struggles. Anyway, I've touched on it a lot through that endeavor with the Mom Collective. And also, I wrote an article about Firehouse Feasts, which is a happy one for Edible Magazine. So that was last summer.
That is so cool. I love that you have, like, all these little touch points and, like, diverse ways of because that's real. That's our real fire life, right? It's not just this, like, one lane thing. It touches all of aspects of our life. So I love that. So let's talk a little bit about Despite the Buzz and raising present kids. I am very curious. Your kids are a little bit older than mine, and I'm terrified of that phase of life, to be completely honest. I taught middle school for a little bit. I mostly taught high school. Um, Very different having babies, toddlers, elementary school age kids. So I'm learning a lot. But, what made you want to write a book specifically about screens? Was there a specific moment that sparked it? Were there, things that led up to this? Can you share more about that?
Sure. Yeah. So I started substitute teaching in 2009. I got my teaching credential in 2011. And as the years progressed, I would notice that students were distracted by phones, and that we all started to feel that pull and that toll of tech. And so I wanted to explore that through a creative lens and use fiction to tell a story from a teacher's viewpoint, and students contribute to it as well. Despite the Buzz is realistic fiction. And there's also a plug for writing in there as a therapeutic practice because it's set in a writing classroom. So it's mixed media, which serves as sort of a commentary about media's influence. And so that has to do with safety, with our relationships, our connections, our well being. And I wanted to present that artfully. And so I'm glad that I was able to live up to that vision and publish Despite the Buzz. Yep.
That is seriously so cool. So again, just to circle back to the screen time thing, as your kids have gotten older, when they were younger, what does screen time look like for you and your family? And I'm not always doing what I would like to be with screen time with my own kids. So I'm curious, what that has looked like for you.
Yeah, so through writing the book, I found out about a lot of resources that shaped the way that I think and parent and teach, really, um, regarding tech. So I would recommend people check out Screenagers, the movie, and there's a blog, and there's a podcast associated with that. And Dr. Delaney Rustin is a physician, and she's definitely influenced my thinking. And we can't be perfect, but we can be intentional. And so I think some things that parents can do is to delay getting phones for your kid if you can. We signed the Wait Until 8th pledge, and if you don't know about that, Wait Until 8th, you can check it out online and pledge to wait that long to get your kid a phone, if that works for your family. I know all families are different and have, different rules, and that's fine, but it's doable. Like, some people think, "Well, I can't wait because everybody has a phone." Well, you can, you just have to find ways to adapt. So, for instance, my daughter at school, since she doesn't have a phone yet, she would just go to the office like old school days, right? And call us. She knows my number, my husband's, and his mom's, so her grandma's. And she can call us, and it's no big deal. She could also borrow a phone from anybody because everybody has a phone, right? Thankfully, their school does have a policy that the phones are away for the day, but still. So we did the wait until 8th. I also recommend delaying social media just because kids are not ready to deal with those comparisons and all of that content, which can be really mature, um, as you know. And so if you haven't already opened that can of worms, I would say wait until at least 16. And if you have opened it, then have conversations with your kids about how it makes them feel to interact on social media and what they might want to cut back on. And then you can use parental controls to set time limits and be intentional in that way. I also recommend prioritizing sleep for everybody, parents and kids. It really does make a difference. And um, it's easy to do. Just leave your phone away from you at night. It's hard to do as a first responder. However, you can set your phone so only certain people and calls and texts will break through. So that's something that a first responder could do. But for the rest of us, I think sleeping without our phones is so important for a variety of reasons, attention span being one. I just read a statistic in Reader's Digest that said back in 2004 at UC Irvine, researchers did a study that people can concentrate for 2.5 minutes. That was the attention span at that time, 2004. And then more recently, it's 47 seconds. We can only focus for 47 seconds. That's the
I believe
average.
it. I believe it 'cause it's the even just on, like, the social media, right? They're like, if you don't catch their attention in 3 seconds, they're not paying attention. Like, I mean, 47 seconds seems long to me when I hear that, like, so 2.5 minutes down to 47 seconds, like, I fully believe that.
Yeah, it's crazy. And ways to increase attention span are reading, which we're doing in our book club. And I'm also reading a book with my son this summer. Last summer, I read with my daughter novels or full on books. And uh, also taking breaks, of course, being active. I know you're very active and getting sleep. So that's all good. Healthy practices just to increase the attention span. Watching an entire movie, not double screening, not having your phone out while you're watching the movie. I mean, we're all guilty of it at times, right? But watching a family movie together, discussing it, that is better for prolonging attention span. And having the phone's put away at times, maybe in the car when you're on a family trip, or having, a certain amount of time that you limit it to and being intentional in that way can help.
Yeah, so many good things. So, first off, I will admit that I have had times where I like guilt and shame myself for feeling like I've done too much screen time.
Yeah, definitely not. And, tech is a tool, and our phones can be used in a variety of ways to check email and to do things that matter and aren't mindless. I think it's good to check ourselves with the passive consumption, like scrolling on social media. But the kids will one day learn that, we do have to use it. That's how it is these days for certain things. But to be mindful about it is important and to leave it behind, maybe if you're going on a walk, if you don't need it, or to turn it off from alerts. So you're just using it as a camera that can make a difference. And it's good modeling for the kids. Yeah. So I think you're doing a wonderful job. Don't sweat it. And I'm definitely not an expert. I'm just interested in this topic. So I've written about it. through my book, through Despite the Buzz, which is a cautionary tale. There is some drama, I'll say, in the middle, and some language. And it's recommended for people 14 and up. So parents have appreciated it, grandparents too, as well as high schoolers. There are book club questions in the back and resources for parents regarding tech and digital wellness. So I became part of this movement, the digital wellness movement, without really intending that. I don't know. It started off as a writing project, and then yeah, because I'm curious about it and I try to present things from a compassionate viewpoint. I enjoy being part of that community and finding out more and sharing resources with people. So been my experience.
That is so cool. It's like you took agency, right? You were curious and you looked for information and you became a resource. And I think that's really neat, not letting things happen around you and actually being part of the action and sharing with other people. Because you also didn't have to. You could have just kept the information for yourself, but you decided to put it into this tool and share it with the world. So that is so cool. So despite the buzz, it is available. And you also have your own website, so you can go there and find a bunch of resources. And you thought of it all, even including book club questions, which is amazing. So thank you. I'm very, very thankful for that too. I love that. Um, all right, we are going to move on to a new thing we're gonna do, which is our fast five. Are you ready?
Okay, let's do it.
Oh, okay. So what is getting you through this season, Tammy?
Well, our book club for one, we're reading The Mountain Is You, and it's good to have the discussion questions, and that keeps me accountable to reading. Also, already mentioned dance and walk and talks with friends. My husband and I are members at a winery, so every so often we'll go and pick up our wine and make a date of it. And I mentioned journaling and travel. So the another perk of the the fire service is you can take long vacations if everything lines up. So it's nice that we're able to do that one.
Yeah, those long sets that they're gone can feel long, but the stretches that they get to be home and that work perk, right, of doing like a trade or something, putting in vacation time, they can be home for 10, 20 days. That's like, who else gets to do that? Like, that is really cool. So I love that. I love that. And then what is one thing that you would tell a fire family who feels alone right now?
I would say to seek out community um, in person or digitally. Also to listen to this podcast, and there's also other fire oriented or first responder um, type podcasts out there. And to read books, we talked about Minda O's. Her book is called Fully Involved. And that one I would recommend. Fit for Off Duty. I won this one from you through something I did.
Yeah, the
and
virtual conference.
that's right. So Fit for Off Duty, that's like a quick read, but I found it to be very relatable and validating. And then my husband is reading this Mindfulness for Warriors, which I also won that through this. And so, yeah, reading, listening to podcasts, connecting with other fire families, I think that really makes a difference.
Okay, you answered 2 questions in one, Tammy. You're just like a rock star. So I was gonna ask you what's a book on your nightstand right now for you or for Sean. So is there
Mhm.
any other book that you just maybe are reading personally? I know you said you're also reading with your son. That's
Yeah,
a lot of books.
it is a lot. And reading is another way to fill my cup, to make space for it. Because, like you, I always have a list in my head, right? Do the dishes, do this, do that. But if I can carve out time, it always feels good. So, my son and I are reading The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien. And I read that, I think, in college. And I'm just so impressed by the writing. Once again, it's poetic, it's thoughtful. It's about the Vietnam War and what the soldiers carried. literally and metaphorically. So he enjoys it because it's a war book, right? And I like it because of the human interest. So it's perfect.
I'm definitely gonna look at that because that sounds like something my husband would like, so thank you. And the TBR is growing, so everybody take note. We are getting a good Fire Family Collective TBR here. Um, okay, you mentioned that you met Sean in the Coast Guard. I'm having this, like, beautiful, crazy, romantic-y version of that happening. Is there, like, a cutesy story of how you met in the Coast Guard?
Well, we were both stationed in Fort Bragg, up north in Mendocino County, and we were on the Noyo River. We had two rewritable lifeboats. They were 47 feet long. He was a boat driver. I was a boat crew member and a radio dispatcher. And so, yeah, we worked together, met there, and then he finished his enlistment, and I still had 2.5 years. So he did the Forest Service for a season, and then I went to what's called A school and became a yeoman, which is administrative, and I got stationed in the Bay Area. So we were together at that point, and he went to paramedic school during my last 2 years. Yeah.
So cool. I love that. I think it's so unique how everyone's journey, you cross paths. That's really cool. So thank you for sharing. All right, last one. When you first shared this with me, I was like, I don't know what she's talking about. So I'm really glad that you're sharing this, because I also am not prepared at all. So 6 P's for evacuation. What are they?
Okay. So when we had to evacuate for the Thomas Fire, the first thing I did was sit down and write a list. And that just centered me to think, what do I want to grab? And so since then, I've come across some resources that help guide people when packing and evacuating. And the most simple one is the 6 P's. So that is people and pets, of course, and everything they need, right? Um, Prescriptions, and that includes like your glasses, prescription glasses, anything for the rest of your family and your pets, PC, personal computer, or whatever device and backup you want to take with you. Um, Let's see. I have my little list right here. Papers. So anything that's not digital that you want to grab. And pictures, of course. Keepsakes, baby books, those kind of thing. Anything that would fall on under that category of pictures. And plastic cards is the last one. That's kind of a no-brainer. It's probably in your purse, but anything that you need to be financially able out there in the world away from your home. Since then, I made my own list as well that hangs on our fridge that has bullet points of, if we have time and we have to evacuate again, what are the things I want to grab? And just knowing that that's there gives me peace of mind that I could refer to it, even if I'm like really stressed out or in a situation where we don't have much time. I can look at it and go, what matters, what counts, what did I intend to bring, and go from there.
Yeah. And like you said, if it is a situation where it's, not a like get out now, right? You have time to evacuate, and your kids are older, they know how to read, like they could also get the list and help you with that too. And it's not living in your head, right? It's on paper and everyone can calmly look at it. I have so much like this to learn from people like you. And I'm so grateful because I don't know, sometimes I live in like this bubble and things don't happen. And so I need these types of nudges to get myself together. So thank you. 6 P's. Um, very, very useful. Hopefully, no one ever has to use them, but if you do, you can be prepared. So thank you for sharing that. Tammy, is there anything else you wanted to share with us?
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm proud of Sean for moving up throughout the ranks from firefighter paramedic to captain to battalion chief, and for training as a safety officer within the incident command system. He's both handy and heroic. He's also a good role model for our kids because he's active and athletic and adventurous. He and my son both play baseball and take Muay Thai classes. Our kids are 13 and 16 now, and parenting responsibilities have shifted throughout the years. Sean and I have both made sacrifices, but I'm glad I could be at home with them when they were little, and I'm thankful for Sean's support. He took time off to let me finish my novel, which is about communication, and he proofread it. He's attended the book tour. He's shared updates over social media, and he also took care of our kids while I flew out to be with my mom during her heart surgeries. So that really mattered a lot to me. And firefighters endure a lot from PTSD to stress and risks of the job, but there are work perks, like we've discussed, such as days off in a row during the week. And I think communication and mental health are important. Another resource I want to share is the Iverson Foundation for Active Awareness. Also, with solo parenting, like we were talking about while our spouses are away, I think it's important to be on the same page with rules, routines, and screen time agreements as much as possible so the kids understand expectations no matter who's at home and who's in charge, so to speak. Lastly, I just want to say if you have a chance to check out the Firehouse Feast article in Edible, Ohio, and Ventura County from last summer, you can find it online. I think this community would enjoy that. So
I
thanks
love
again for
that.
inviting me on.
Of
Yeah.
course. That's so beautiful. You touched on so many great things. So, I can never say enough good things about Ashley Iverson. I told her the first time I met her, "You are my best friend, and you just don't know it yet." I promise I'm not a stalker. She literally changed my life, and like you've said before in this podcast, that's another podcast. But an incredible human, just serving the world like we've talked about many incredible, people that our kids get to be surrounded by, and your husband sounds like one of them, and it's just so incredible that we have these great role models for the next generations of humans in this world, and to have a supportive partner, right? You're supportive of him and his career and the things that are important to him, and, it's great that he can do that for you too and things that matter to you. And to be able to, like you said, take care of your mom in such a probably challenging health crisis. So, again, and your kids get to see you doing that and stepping up in a different role and caretaker for their grandparents. So it's just beautiful that you are modeling all of that for your kids. And again, another cool writing piece that you're putting out in the world for our community. So thank you for doing that. And it's just all so great.
Mhm. Thanks for all you do for the collective and for this podcast.
Thank you, Tammy.